I think he might have dumped that bike and bailed because I think he thought I was kidding. And I said I'm going to call it back.
A man taking a photo on a public street sparks a police response, but what happens next questions the balance between rights and suspicion.
So, I don't want to infringe upon your rights.
There's a record of you stalking me.
Okay, that sounds good.
Was his silence a crime, or was it his right watch? As one man challenges the system and demands clarity on constitutional protections. On September the 6th, 2024, in the small town of Rigby, Idaho, a woman named Barbara calls the police. Her complaint. A stranger took a photo of her home. Officer Delgado of the Rigby Police Department responds to the call. Moments later, a state trooper joins him. The man accused, Braden, stands calmly nearby, confident in his rights. The officers believe they're investigating suspicious behavior. But what they're really walking into is a constitutional test, one that raises serious questions. Is taking a picture from a public space now a crime? Can police detain you just for staying silent?
Do you have a safety backup, please?
I can't have a call now. See if I can. I'm looking over there, okay?
10-4, thank you. Hey, Del.
Yep.
Hi.
So, I've been being gang stalked.
Okay.
Okay? Started with that house right there.
I'm gonna get out of the sun. Starting with this house?
No, it's... So, Chief gave my personal information about 18 months ago.
Okay.
Okay? The guy came over and started chewing me out because I drove for a female situation to 1 block to the dollar store. Okay?
Okay.
I trespassed him with craning.
Okay.
Okay? He has been going to different places and starting stuff anywhere he can. Like catching rabbits he thinks are mine because I feed stray animals. Okay? That includes cats. It includes squirrels. I don't care. They're hungry. Okay? Apparently, he's been going around the neighborhood showing off the animals he's catching that he thinks are mine. The guy has a sick obsession with me. I'm going to go get a RO, I think. Now, this guy down here, he's been driving up and down my street. He's one of his friends. And
Is he driving or is he on that bike?
bike. He's on that bike. And he's like taking pictures of me going, I'm going to post it on social media.
Okay.
So we have another stalker. But this guy right here, if he intends to dox me in the neighborhood I live in, or the town I live in, that's illegal. So its intent is to cause emotional distress. I'm already living next to asshole 1 and asshole 2 and asshole 3.
Okay.
So I need you, pretty please, to go down there. I think he might have dumped that bike and bailed because I think he thought I was kidding when I said I'm going to call the cops.
Yeah, well, I see someone on the corner over there with the bike.
Okay, well, that's him.
Sitting on a bike. Is
And
that
he's
him?
laughing.
He has like man bun?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. I'll advise ISP to make contact with the male and I'll head over and make contact with him.
Is he still there?
Yeah, he's over there.
Cool. I'm sure he's going to start some shit.
Maybe. Gotcha. I'm gonna go over there with him. G3 out with 9-4.
Go back and see if you'll.
Hi.
What's up?
What are we up to?
Just roundabout?
Okay. Did you pass by that residence over there?
Of course, I have a friend that lives down there.
Okay. Who's your friend?
I don't have to answer any of your questions.
At this time you do, because you're a suspect.
Actually,
you're a suspect
I have a
of
Fifth Amendment right
That's not a Fifth Amendment right.
to not to answer questions to cops.
Yeah.
Are
You're not under arrest.
You actually believe that, don't you?
Huh?
You actually believe that, don't you?
Okay.
I legally do not have to answer any of your questions, sir.
Well, at this point you're detained, so you do. Because you're a suspect of a stalking.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just simply asking questions and we'll go from there. You will go about your day, I'll go about my day. Let's just make it easy, man.
Okay.
Okay. Who's your friend that was over there?
I plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. Okay. What's your name?
I plead the fifth.
Okay.
Braden calmly tells the officers he's choosing to remain silent, a right he believes is protected by the Fifth Amendment. But Officer Delgado disagrees. He insists Braden answers questions. This clash centers on one of the most misunderstood protections in American law, the right to remain silent during police encounters that aren't arrests. According to the Fifth Amendment, no one shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. But here's the catch: courts have never clearly decided whether that protection applies during brief detentions like this one known as Terry stops. Still, there's strong legal reasoning behind Braden's position. In the 1966 Miranda verse, Arizona ruling the Supreme Court acknowledged that the Fifth Amendment doesn't just apply in courtrooms, it applies anytime your freedom is significantly restricted and you might be pressured to incriminate yourself. That includes police interactions. Other Supreme Court opinions, including Berkmer v. McCarty and Justice White's comments in Terry v. Ohio, support the idea that while police can ask questions, people aren't obligated to answer unless they're formally arrested or lawfully compelled. But in 2004, the Hebel case created confusion. The court said a person could be required to give their name, but only in states with laws that specifically allow it, and only if officers have reasonable suspicion. Idaho doesn't have one of those laws, and Braden, knowing his rights, stood firm. So the question becomes, when a citizen refuses to answer calmly, respectfully, and lawfully, does that give police grounds to escalate? If silence becomes a reason for suspicion, how far are we from silence becoming a crime? Comment. Your take below: should silence be a red flag? Or is it one of our last remaining shields in a system that too often punishes people for using their rights?
So you do have to identify yourself when
Not
being
correct.
requested. Okay. That you do have to.
Absent reasonable
don't-
suspicion,
No,
or
he has-
reasonable, articulable suspicion.
So he does have reasonable articulable suspicion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a restraining order against him? Or anything like that?
But no, she wants to get one.
Oh, she
so
wants
that's
to
why
get
she
one.
wants to get him identified so she can go to the
Okay.
courthouse and
Oh, okay.
go about that.
Okay.
So she's not even going to press charges. She just wants to get a protection order. That's it.
She can't press charges. I didn't do anything.
Can she come down here and identify him?
She identified him from over there.
Oh, well, there you go.
She described a man bun, guy on a bike.
Okay. Riding on a public street,
Yeah.
taking pictures.
Okay.
I'm still not seeing anything illegal there.
So you were taking pictures? Is that what you said?
Sure.
Of her?
I needed to post on a public page on Facebook
Well, where was she when you took the pictures?
on her property.
Then she has reasonable expectation of privacy.
No, she doesn't.
Where was she at on her property?
In front of her front door, in plain view.
In plain view? So I just want to make sure I understand, right? Okay. You seem like a savvy guy. Don't want to pull anything fast over you. Okay?
Sure.
I make a mistake, you call me out on it. Good. Right? Because I don't want my constitutional rights infringed upon either.
Of course.
From my uniform.
Right.
So you drove by this individual's house, or rode on your. Okay. Regardless of the public roadway and stuff like that, we get it. You didn't trespass.
Right.
Okay, you did all that right. You saw her standing in front of her door on her property, and you felt the urge to take pictures of her.
I've been meaning to for a while. So
Okay.
I'm trying to blacklist her
You're trying to blacklist her.
from a certain industry. Yeah,
Okay. So, and then you want to post those pictures?
of course.
Okay. And what's the intent of posting those pictures?
Blacklisting.
Blacklisting. And what does she need to be blacklisted from?
Purchasing rabbits.
Purchasing rabbits.
Yes.
Okay. So, like, are you thinking like a community page like
Yes.
Craigslist or something like that,
Something
or
like
Facebook
that.
Marketplace?
Something like that.
Okay, cool. So your intent is to take pictures of her, say, everybody, don't let this lady buy rabbits from you. Is she harming them in any way?
Not directly.
Okay.
Domestic rabbits are not meant to be roaming free.
Oh, so she's taking like a pet and then like setting it free?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right.
So, let's see, when was it? Not within like last 2-ish weeks. I've been helping basically everybody on the street catch the loose rabbits.
Okay, cool.
I caught 9 in 6 days.
What kind of rabbits are they?
A mixture between, I think some had silver fox, had the looks of silver fox. Some were obviously Flemish giant.
Okay.
Some had the look like they had Rex mixed in there.
Okay. So, how'd you find out that she was doing all this?
Facebook.
Oh, really? So she's like,
it's been a huge problem for 3 years.
no kidding. Okay. Is this your first time taking pictures of her?
Yeah.
Okay. First time passing by her house?
Not passing by her house, because I go to my friends.
Okay. I'm just going to take your word for it that you got a friend over there.
Okay.
She wants a restraining order against you.
Okay.
She's already identified you. Does she know your name?
No.
Okay. So, you're not under arrest. Like he said. That's all she wants to do is just say, hey, I don't want him coming over here within maybe, what is it, typically like 300 feet?
300 feet, yeah.
300 feet and taking pictures of me. I find that reasonable.
Okay.
I don't know if you do, but you did get the information you need, and you did get the information you need to blacklist
I
her.
won't be taking pictures of her again.
I love that.
Okay.
I do love that. She still has the right, just like you do, to file a complaint and file a protection order.
Protection.
Okay, a protection order. Not a restraining order, but a protection order. Are you cool with that?
Not if it means giving up my Fourth Amendment rights.
What's your Fourth Amendment right now?
To stay, what's the word, secure my papers and effects.
Okay, no. That's fine. Name, date of birth.
That still falls within papers and effects.
Well, if you give it to us, that's why we're saying consent, right? This is going to be their case anyway. It just makes it easier. I don't know how your policy goes on what he does, but I think you've been very reasonable. I think you're passionate about it. I love the fact that you explained it to us. To me, that dispels any kind of major suspicion that you're just some guy. I see, are you married?
I am.
So it dispels any suspicion for me that you're like this married dude that's going along taking pictures of women next to their doorstep and things like that.
For sure.
I like that. You're trying to save animals? I'm good with that. In fact, I have a dog that you could, if you wanted a dog, because my wife's incredibly allergic to him.
Not on the size of property I have.
Okay, gotcha. I understand that. So, but anyway, that's what we're here for. When I pulled up, what were you doing here?
I assumed you guys would like to speak with me.
Okay.
And so I figured I would give you the courtesy.
I'll do that.
I have nothing against law enforcement. The only time I have anything against law enforcement is if you violate rights or break laws yourself.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I'm not a thin blue line guy. If a cop does something, like, I have no problem arresting. One time my sergeant actually said, would you like to go arrest a marshal? He's dealing drugs out of his patrol vehicle.
Okay.
And I was like, send me at him. I got no problem doing any of that. None at all. So I don't want to infringe upon your rights. I do, and I'll go double check this, but the reasonable suspicion of you stalking is that you are going there taking pictures of her while she's on her property outside her door. So that's the reasonable articulable suspicion of possible stalking. There's suspicion that you are stalking her when you do that. Do you know what I mean?
That's fair, but you said possible, so that...
Right, but that's the reasonable suspicion, right? It's reasonable. I believe, so like, if I'm at a bank and I see a guy take out a rifle and sling it over his shoulder, not a violation of any law. He can do that. If he puts on a mask, still not a violation of any law.
For sure.
However, I can articulate that this guy's probably going to go do something crazy in that bank, and I'm going to intercept him. And I'm going to talk to him. I will detain him until I can figure out whether or not.
For sure.
So that is where we're at with the reasonable suspicion. You did everything right, public roadway, all that stuff, but then you took pictures of her.
For sure.
Trooper Roberts joins the scene trying to make sense of the call. The woman Barbara says she was frightened because Braden took a photo as he walked past her house. Based on that, the trooper suggests they might have reasonable suspicion to investigate Braden for stalking. But Idaho law is clear. Under Section 187906, stalking requires a course of conduct, meaning repeated unwanted contact. It's not enough for someone to feel alarmed or annoyed one time. The law also excludes behavior that's protected by the Constitution, like filming or photographing in public. Here, Barbara told police this was the first time she'd ever seen Braden. That alone makes it nearly impossible to claim any ongoing pattern of harassment. Even more important, Braden took the photo while walking on a public street, a place where the First Amendment protects the right to gather and document information, especially about public spaces. The officers never saw Braden step onto private property. They They never witnessed any threatening behavior, and yet they continued pressing him for answers, framing his silence and photography as suspicious. It's one thing to follow up on a concerned citizen's call. It's another to stretch the law to make an innocent act look criminal. If the law says one photo from a sidewalk isn't stalking, then what are officers really trying to enforce here? Should the feeling of discomfort be enough to trigger police action even when no law is broken? Drop a comment and let us know where you stand.
Well,
Was it like a burst?
technically it was a video because I was riding past and I didn't want to stop.
Okay. Were you just like
Pretty much.
this?
Yes.
Did she say anything to you?
She asked if she wanted me to pose, or if I wanted her to pose.
Pose?
Pose. So essentially, she was accepting the photos. So. So that kind of dispels that.
Yeah, no, see, this is why we have these conversations,
For sure.
man, because it helps us to know exactly what we need.
For sure.
Let me go look up a couple codes real quick to make sure that I'm squared away on everything. If I find a code, though, that says that based upon reasonable articulable suspicion, you have to identify yourself for these purposes, I'll explain that whole entire code to you.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, I'm gonna leave this up to the man.
Okay.
So I'll be right back. Okay.
If you do decide to pursue it, I would like a supervisor, please.
I don't have a supervisor.
I'm sure you do.
I don't.
Are you like are you a supervisor?
No, I'm the only unit on for the city. So, yeah. So don't think that I'm like trying to harass or anything. I'm just trying to,
I know.
get everything squared away and stuff
I would
like
hate-
that. So,
I really would hate to have to file a lawsuit over Fourth Amendment.
yeah.
I really would.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm here on this street to do.
For sure. And that's why we had the discussion
For sure.
when we're on the same page now, right?
For sure.
Because I come over here hearing her side, but you also have a side to the story.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get everything together and
For sure.
go from there, so you can go ahead and check that out, and then I'll talk to my friend real quick. Because I don't think that she wants to press any charges or anything like that. The only comment that she made is that she wanted to get a protection order against him.
She's gonna have to go to court for that, though.
For what? For the protection order? Yeah, she has to go to a court and fill it out and state why she wants to get the protection order filled out against him.
Hello.
Hi, Barbara. This is Trooper Roberts from the State Police. How are you?
Okay, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hey, I was wondering if you knew the name of that individual.
I do not. I think he's a friend though.
Well, do you have any messages with him at all? Have you been in communication with him?
I don't know.
You don't know if you've spoken to him like via Facebook Messenger, text? What's that?
I can't hear you.
You don't know if you've spoken to him like through Messenger or text message or anything like that?
Nope, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. The reason I'm asking, it just makes it harder to identify him. So.
You should be able to identify him. I went to police academy 30 years ago, sir. You can identify him based on the fact that he's harassing me in my own yard.
Okay, so I appreciate that you went through the academy 30 years ago, but things have changed completely since then.
You have probable cause.
So we don't have probable cause, and if we have a misdemeanor that's not committed in our presence, we can't arrest anyway. So
I'm not asking you to arrest. I'm asking you to identify.
So we're working on identifying him right now. Okay. So I was just calling you to see if you had any messages or anything like that. Where did you serve?
It doesn't matter. All I'm asking you to do is do your job and identify him so that there's a record of you stalking me.
Okay, that sounds good.
Alright, what's your badge number, please?
4091.
Thank you. Have a good night. Be safe.
You too, thank you. Hi, dude. You said you have messages with her?
I do.
Okay, so
She initiated it.
okay, that's fine. She says that she doesn't know if she does. I looked at codes. You know, a lot of it's, if I pull somebody over, driver,
Of course,
they have
yes.
to. You're a pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different story.
Yeah, and Idaho does not have an official stop and ID law.
They don't.
Or-
No, they don't.
So,
My reasonable suspicion at this point is just dispelled.
okay.
I think, honestly, you went over there. Before it wasn't, dude. I'm going to be honest, okay?
Right.
Before it wasn't.
And I do apologize if I came off as like a hard for...
You're fine, dude. You're fine. But
I'm a constitutionalist, so...
Good. That's what I'm registered.
After the footage ends, Braden and the officers part ways without further incident. But the story doesn't end there. Braden, believing his rights had nearly been violated, filed a formal complaint. He requested that Officer Delgadio receive constitutional law training. At the same time, he sent a commendation to Trooper Roberts, praising the trooper for taking the time to verify the law before acting. Braden recognized the effort, even if the officers had stumbled along the way. Looking at this encounter, both officers receive a B. Why? Because while they ultimately reached the right decision, allowing Braden to walk free, they only got there after misunderstanding what the law actually says. The officers repeatedly claimed they had reasonable suspicion for stalking, despite the clear legal requirement for repeated conduct, which didn't exist in this case. Trooper Roberts stood out for his willingness to check his assumptions and research the law before taking further action. But Officer Delgadio, while professional, showed a lack of understanding about when he could demand ID, a key part of his job. This wasn't a failure of attitude, it was a failure of knowledge. Braden, on the other hand, earns an A+. He stayed calm, respectful, and explained his rights without escalating the situation. He didn't run, didn't yell, didn't challenge for the sake of drama. He simply stood firm like any citizen should be allowed to do. And while he wasn't a First Amendment auditor, he handled himself better than many who claim to be. He wasn't looking for a fight, but he stood his ground. And that's what makes this story worth telling. If you think Braden handled this better than most, hit the like button. And if you believe police should be required to pass regular constitutional law reviews, drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone.